Mark Levin here. After any presidential election, I take time to reevaluate my own financial investments. That's why I continue to invest in gold for help with my financial protection. When it comes to gold, I only trust Advantage Gold. They're a top gold company in America, and that's who I turn to for my own gold purchases. Call them now at 800-900-8000. That's 800-900-8000 for a free gold investment kit. And see if you qualify for up to $1,000 in free silver. That's 800-900-8000. And tell them Mark Levin sent you. Performance may vary. You should always consult your financial and tax professional.
He's here. He's here. Now, broadcasting from the underground command post, deep in the bowels of a hidden bunker, somewhere under the brick and steel of a nondescript building, we've once again made contact with our leader, Mark Levin.
Mark Levin here. Our number, 877-381-3811, 877-381-3811. Let's mark down this show, Mr. Producer, for the Radio Hall of Fame, even before I started. Let's put a marker down. I'm going to say something that at some point will be regurgitated by the backbenchers in TV and radio, but that's not the point. We're on the precipice of another grave constitutional crisis. Joe Biden is not going to leave office, perhaps, without putting another nail in our Constitution. They've told you what they wanted to do, how they want to destroy the independence of the courts and violate separation of powers, a horrendous threat against our republic. They made it clear that they want to change our federal voting system in a way that they can never lose and we can never win. It's called eliminating the Electoral College. A grave threat. They made it clear that they want to add the District of Columbia and Puerto Rico as two states. Not because they care about Puerto Rico and the District of Columbia. They care about getting 4 more Democrat senators so the Republicans can never win a majority again in the United States Senate. They've attacked the Bill of Rights, freedom of speech, freedom of association, freedom of assembly, and the free exercise of religion. It's okay to go into the streets and advocate for Hamas, Hezbollah, Al-Qaeda, ISIS, but whatever you do, do not peacefully assemble and protest, even silently, in front of an abortion clinic. That will send you to prison. That's the record. Whatever you do, if you're a parent, don't speak out of line and don't speak too loudly at a school board meeting unless you want to knock on the door by the FBI. That's the current situation. Don't post information on social media or speak out in a way that dares to challenge the so-called science, which isn't even science, spewed by Democrat Party administration and Democrat governors who use the occasion of a horrendous virus to use the iron fist of tyranny on their citizens. It's a long list. First Amendment, the Second Amendment, the Fifth Amendment, the Sixth, the Eighth, the Ninth, the 10th, the 14th, separation of powers, the abuse of the justice system in ways we've never seen before against a former president who's running for president again. We've never seen anything like this. It should cause you to shiver in concern and fear. We had this election where the people said, that's enough. We don't want any more of this. Now we hear talk of something as if we're talking about French fries or we're talking about a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. It's no big deal. And what is it? They've given it a name called preemptive pardons or prospective pardons. I've been working and studying the Constitution since I was 13 years old. It's my area of expertise. I've written about it. I've talked about it. I've litigated about it. I've never heard these phrases, preemptive pardons or prospective pardons. Oh, sure, I know that Gerald Ford pardoned Richard Nixon for any potential future charges. I think we can all admit that was an extraordinarily unique and rare situation where a president resigns. And not before and not since has there been a general use of quote-unquote preventive pardons or prospective pardons. Really made-up phrases from an administration, a party, an ideology that makes up phrases and words all the time. The phrase preemptive pardons or prospective pardons corrupts the language as it corrupts the law. For example, imagine the following. A president pardons himself not just for past or present federal offenses or possible federal offenses, but for any and all possible future offenses. Then the president he's effectively immunized himself from all criminal exposure of any kind, including after they leave office. I thought the Biden regime and the Democrats, their media and their academics were very upset that the Supreme Court ruled in a very cautious and limited way that a president has limited immunity relating to his or her official acts, not for purely personal acts. But what is being discussed by the Biden regime right now is the possibility that the president could indeed, with his own signature, immunize himself or herself from all federal offenses into the future, including when he's no longer president. Wow. I think they owe a big apology to the members of the Supreme Court who ruled correctly. Or imagine a president handing out such pardons for all his family members, his friends, administration officials, donors, and or political allies and party members. What then? Now look, I'm not big on another impeachment spectacle. The Constitution gives us few tools to deal with a openly anti-Constitution, anti-American regime backed by a political party. But let me be clear. Let me put the marker down, chisel this down. If Joe Biden creates a precedent of the kind that is being discussed by his staff, his party, and others in the media about preemptive pardons or prospective pardons, that creates a precedent of this sort, a precedent that will utterly destroy the nature of this republic, like so much of what the Democrat Party and Biden want to do, then we have no choice. You might recall the second impeachment against Donald Trump occurred on the Senate side, the so-called trial, when he had already left office. The purpose of this impeachment would not be able to remove him from office because the Senate Democrats give their allegiance to their party and their leaders, not to the country. This has become unequivocally clear. The reason for impeachment would be to make it abundantly clear that there are people in Congress in the House and the Senate. There are people from one end of this country to the other. There are people who want a voice and want steps taken to confront what could be the most egregious assault on our constitutional system yet. From a party, a regime, a president that hates the people who wrote the Constitution, who adopted it, who ratified it, and those of us who seek to actually enforce it. I tried to explain the other night. This election was not about the middle class versus the elites, and I'm so sick of the Marxist pablum, the class structure of the debate. This election was about those of us who support America and those who do not. This election was about those of us who support liberty and those who do not. This election was about those of us who support the Constitution and those who do not. That's why everything was at stake. Not because of the middle/working class versus the elites. It's because of the Washington power establishment that is trying to devour what's left of this republic. That's what this election was about. Not class warfare, not Marxist pablum. Patriots, whatever their background, whatever their income, whatever their color, whatever their faith, standing up and saying no to what they were doing to Donald Trump and our judicial system. Saying no to the destruction of American citizenry, our culture, and assimilation with an open border. Saying no. We're not economic socialists. We are economic market capitalists. This election was about big things, substantive things, huge principles of Western civilization and humanity versus the rest. Joe Biden pardoned his son, like I told you he would, in September 2023. He pardoned his son because of the crimes that he committed and that he might be held accountable for after he leaves office. Like a mobster, he took action to protect himself, his family too. But the main reason to protect himself, as I told you over a year ago, while others were debating the niceties of what a federal judge did in Wilmington. And I pointed out to you, and none of it matters. He's going to pardon his son to pardon himself. And now I am ringing the bells, banging the pots and pans, and I am telling you right now that if Joe Biden entertains preventive pardons and prospective pardons in a systemic manner, in a way that this country has never experienced before, that there must be pushback other than our rubbing our hands together. Even if the impeachment clause cannot be exercised to the point of removing him before he's forced to leave office, it is the process that should be triggered to make it abundantly clear that what he is doing is a high crime. What he is doing is an attack on the civil society. What he's doing is an attack on Republican government. And it must not be tolerated. And for those who are out there saying, well, you know, he ought to just pardon Donald Trump, to give him cover when Donald Trump didn't do anything wrong, are making a huge mistake. Donald Trump doesn't need a pardon from Joe Biden. Joe Biden is the mobster. The mobster shouldn't issue a pardon for what the mobster did to Donald Trump. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
Did you see what the Federal Reserve did literally days after President Trump's victory? It's lowered interest rates by a quarter. Do you know why it did that? It's worried about the economy. It's worried about the fact that jobs aren't being created. We're seeing all kinds of shifts in our portfolios, and it's important to stay aware. That's why I'm urging everyone to diversify and consider gold as one of your financial shields. Now, gold has weathered every kind of economic downturn throughout history. I want you to call Advantage Gold. They're the best of the best, folks. I've dealt with all of them. They're the best. They're my gold company. 1-800-900-8000. Get a free gold investment kit to see how you can get started with gold. I recommend Advantage Gold to anyone who's serious about protecting their wealth, and that's you. Call 800-900-8000 for your free gold investment kit, and you can even qualify for up to $1,000 in free silver. That's 800-900-8000. Call them now. Tell them Mark Levin sent you. You'll be very happy with them. Performance may vary. You should always consult your financial and tax professional. Let me just be clear. If the Biden regime just picks 20 of its favorite putative victims because the Trump administration said they're going to go after people and so forth and so on, what would stop them? What would the test be? What would the rule be on the number of preemptive pardons that he could give out? There's nothing in the Constitution that creates such barriers. The pardon power is as general as it gets. I suppose it could go to the Supreme Court with the Supreme Court Act, maybe. But the Supreme Court would have to create some kind of test or rationale, because not one currently exists in law. You see, there's an expectation that if you become president of the United States, there has to be some level of virtue. Some level of prudence. But when a man like Joe Biden, who has always been a psychopath, a serial liar, who's angry, who believes he should have been nominated by his party at the convention to run again, who believes that he would be president again but for, who knows nothing about government power, on exercising government power against the private sector and individuals, citizens. That's all he's done his whole life. Who has skated, despite the fact that millions of dollars are poured into his family and him. He's never been held to account for anything. Logical next step. What's to stop him? You actually have party members, his own party, Hakeem Jeffries, Democrats galore, Clyburn, others urging him, pressing him, issue more pardons. It's in the media. Check it out. Issue more pardons, Joe. Issue more pardons. Protect more people, Joe. Protect more people. Because the Democrat Party, as an institution, hates America. Not all the Democrat rank and file, I say this again and again. The party, the structure, the apparatchiks, the leadership, they hate the country. It's all about monopoly power for the Democrat Party. That's what it is. And if they feel they need to do this, and then, of course, blame Donald Trump or blame Kash Patel or blame the man on the moon, it doesn't much matter. No accountability, responsibility to themselves, and that's what they'll do. And they'll forever destroy the country, election or no election. I'll be back. The markets are volatile. They're shooting up wildly only to drop without warning. The Fed just cut rates yet again, this time by a quarter point. Why? Because the Federal Reserve is not confident the economy is strong. In fact, last month only 12,000 jobs were created, all of them in the government. That's why I'm telling you again, diversification is crucially important. And diversification with gold is what I do. And the company I use, and I've used many, the best one is Advantage Gold. Call them now at 800-900-8000 for a free gold investment kit to see how gold gold can help you diversify your investments and take advantage now. Now, gold has been helping to protect and grow wealth for people for thousands of years. And in these times, it could be more crucial than ever. When it comes to gold, I trust Advantage Gold. They're one of the top gold companies in America. They're who I turn to when I purchase gold. Call them now, 800-900-8000. Call 800-900-8000 now for a free gold investment kit to see how gold can help you with your investment portfolio, a.k.a. your bank accounts, your paycheck. And when you do, you could qualify for $1,000 in free silver. That's 800-900-8000. Folks, don't wait. Call them now, 800-900-8000, and tell them Mark Levin sent you. Performance may vary. You should always consult your financial and tax professional.
Mark Levin, radio's hell-raising intellectual. Call now, 877-381-3811.
You know, ladies and gentlemen, it is at times exhausting to confront what takes place by tyrants and mobsters. But those of you who listen to this program, you're well aware that exhausting or not, frustrating or not, that's what we do. We are not Chicken Littles, that the sky is falling every time something is done that we disagree with as a matter of policy or politics. But I've been doing this almost a quarter of a century now behind this microphone. And at no time during that period has there been a time like the last several years. No time. The level of in-your-face tyranny, the open attack on our constitutional construct by a radicalized Democrat Party and a demented president is unprecedented, absolutely unprecedented. The go-along media, the Pravda Al Jazeera media, we've never seen anything like this either. Oh, they've been bad, but not like this. Not like this. We have a political party in the Democrat Party that is not interested in whether they win or lose elections. They intend to win no matter what. When they win, they claim they have a mandate. When we win, they claim there is no mandate. When we win, they turn to the permanent parts of government, the bureaucracy and the courts, to sabotage and to derail the decision of the voters, to try and imprison the electoral victor, or overwhelm them with the criminal justice system, which they turn into the criminal injustice system. The American people have said no in a landslide election. No, we want no more of this. But the Democrat Party apparatchiks say, too damn bad. What are you going to do about it? Joe Biden is a decrepit, shriveled, pathetic, power-hungry man holding on to everything and anything he possibly can. He did nothing heroic or loyal to this country when he stepped aside. He was forced out. He lied to the American people about his mental capacity, and everybody around him lied to us. From the media to his inner circle to his press spokespeople, everybody lied to us. Even though it was obvious to us. It's obvious to everybody. And now they're trying to camouflage their tyranny as righteous. As righteous, as self-defense. Against Donald Trump and Kash Patel and anybody else who dares to say, look, we need to investigate and determine if crimes were committed. When you people destroyed our justice system, tried to destroy our electoral system. Oh. Well, then, we'll use the pardon power, you see. First, I'll pardon myself through my son. Now we're going to look around and see if there's other people who supported us in the campaign, who supported our policies, who supported our ideology and our agenda, whether we need to protect them too. Well, why do you need to protect them if they didn't do anything criminal? Well, there's legal fees. Really? Well, there's a lot of people who've mentioned legal fees who were targeted by the Biden regime and his ilk. Some of whom went to jail for absolutely nothing. Bannon, Navarro, others. And they tried to send Donald Trump to prison before the election. These are the tactics of a Putin, of a Xi, of an Un, of the Islamo-Nazis that run Iran. These are the tactics of a Castro, of a Chavez, of a Stalin, of a Mao. People say this election, as I say repeatedly now, is about the middle class and working people. No, it wasn't. Stop talking like a bunch of Karl Marx incipient fanatics. This election was about we the people versus them. All of us versus them. When you steal our Bill of Rights, it doesn't matter how much income you have or don't have. Those are our human individual rights that you've stolen, regardless of class. When you seek to destroy the independence of the Supreme Court, it's not about working people versus non-working people. It's about saving the republic. When the border's wide open to criminals, to terrorists, to fentanyl, and God knows what else. That's not an economic class warfare issue. That's an American issue. This is very important to understand. Very important to understand. And what Joe Biden is doing, his lawyers are doing, his staff are doing, is as close to treason as anything I've seen in a systemic way by an office of a president. How do we protect ourselves? How do we protect our political allies? How do we protect people who support our policies and our principles and our views? How do we do that? Protect them from what? Well, you know, the incoming administration, they're going to go after these people. First of all, it's not true. They're not going to go after these people, but some of them might be investigated. And so what they're saying, no, you're not allowed to investigate them. And as a matter of fact, we're going to use this as an occasion to take immunity that we condemned. We condemned immunity when the Supreme Court ruled that a president has immunity when it comes to his official actions. Remember the three knucklehead justices? Oh, I mean, they can do whatever they want. They can order somebody murdered. Now, literally, what Joe Biden has in mind is immunity through the back door, to use the pardon clause. To use the pardon clause for quote-unquote preemptive pardons or prospective pardons. What is that? That's immunity. 100% immunity. We're not even talking just about the president. For anybody the president says should have immunity. I think Liz Cheney should have immunity. Why? We want to know what happened during that January 6th committee and all the documents and material that were lost. Maybe she can be helpful. Not immunity. We want to know how we got this damnable virus. We want to know all about it. We want to hold people responsible. Nope, he gets immunity for anything you might consider. What? Adam Schiff lies through his teeth, takes this country through hell with the Russia collusion. Well, we want to look at that. No, you're not. Immunity. Wow. Talk about above the law. We got a whole class of people who are going to be above the law. And so what is the limiting factor? What is the limitation test? Since none of this is in the Constitution, it's very ambiguous. What is in there? Are the number of people you can give preemptive pardons to or prospective pardons to limited? No. Well, what would be the limiting factor? There is no limiting factor. So if it went to the Supreme Court, they'd have to create one. In other words, they'd have to become activists to prevent abuse of power. Will they? I have no idea. I have no idea. And we should just sit back and watch this? As I said, I'm not big on another impeachment. I want the Republicans to go forward with an agenda, go on offense. And I know the attention that impeachment draws. But in this case, what's being discussed by the Biden regime creates a precedent if it happens. A grave, tyrannical precedent. But, Mark, he wouldn't be impeached. The House is too close in terms of their numbers. Maybe true. And even if it got through the House, he wouldn't be convicted of the Senate. You know, the Democrats goose step. They march in line. They're not going to do it. Maybe true. And sometimes when you fight moral, righteous battles, you don't know in advance if you're going to win or lose, and you might well lose. Ask the men at the Second Constitutional Convention who signed the Declaration of Independence. Ask them what they thought, if they thought they would win or lose, when they were up against the most powerful military force on the face of the earth. Sometimes things are so important, you don't analyze them or judge them based on whether you're going to win or lose. The war against slavery needed to be fought, and thank God it was won. The war against Hitler needed to be fought, and thank God it was won. And you could go on and on about issues that matter. And when you have a party, and you have a White House and a regime that day in and day out are looking for ways to circumvent law and order, to circumvent justice, to circumvent our constitutional order, you got to be on your toes. And you got to use what tools are available. Lawful, peaceful, legitimate tools. Win, lose, or draw. I don't mean to demean it, but think about a sporting event. Football game. You got to play the game to see who wins or loses. Well, this is about 1,000 times, 1,000,000 times more important than that, isn't it? I have no illusions about the gutless wonders who are in Congress, who fold like cheap tents, who embrace concocted controversies when it comes to our nominees. I have no illusions that those individuals will stand up, but there are others who might. There are others who might. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
Did you see what the Federal Reserve did literally days after President Trump's victory? It's lowered interest rates by a quarter. Do you know why it did that? It's worried about the economy. It's worried about the fact that jobs aren't being created. We're seeing all kinds of shifts in our portfolios, and it's important to stay aware. That's why I'm urging everyone to diversify and consider gold as one of your financial shields. Now, gold has weathered every kind of economic downturn throughout history. I want you to call Advantage Gold. They're the best of the best, folks. I've dealt with all of them. They're the best. They're my gold company. 1-800-900-8000. Get a free gold investment kit to see how you can get started with gold. I recommend Advantage Gold to anyone who's serious about protecting their wealth, and that's you. Call 800-900-8000 for your free gold investment kit, and you can even qualify for up to $1,000 in free silver. That's 800-900-8000. Call them now. Tell them Mark Levin sent you. You'll be very happy with them. Performance may vary. You should always consult your financial and tax professional. Here she is, Marble Mouth, the Biden spokes idiot. When asked about this preemptive pardon stuff today, go.
Are preemptive pardons on the table as our president goes through?
I'm just not going to. I'm not going to get ahead of the president. Certainly, the president is looking at reviewing next steps, and there will be more to come. I'm just not going to get ahead of the president. I'm not going to get into hypotheticals from here.
Yeah, really? Well, you already blew it. She's not going to get ahead of the president. The president is looking at reviewing next steps. There will be more to come. What does that mean, Mr. Producer? Unless they put the brakes on it, which I hope they do. But that's fairly ominous, despite her word salad. By the way, a Killer Life, Liberty, and Levin, Saturday and Sunday. New programs, brand new. I understand they may not actually be preempted, Mr. Producer. 8 p.m. Eastern Time Saturday, 8 p.m. Eastern Time Sunday. Saturday's program tomorrow night, Leo Terrell and Laura Trump. You're going to love it. Sunday show, Devin Nunes. We're going to talk about Kash Patel and Jonathan Turley. Preemptive pardons. You're not going to want to miss my opening monologues. Tomorrow night, it's all about Pete Hegseth, who is sabotaging him, and that we need to stand firm. The president, I'm sure, will stand firm. There needs to be a roll call vote in the Senate. I'll get into it in great detail. Hope you'll watch it. Saturday and Sunday, 8 p.m. Eastern. Set your DVR if you can't watch it live. I'll be right back. This segment of the podcast is exclusively sponsored by Pure Talk. Pure Talk offers great coverage and can save your family money on your wireless bill every single month. Go to puretalk.com to find the plan that's right for you. Thank you again for listening, and thank you so much for this sponsorship. Pure Talk.
He's here. He's here. Now, broadcasting from the underground command post, deep in the bowels of a hidden bunker, somewhere under the brick and steel of a nondescript building, we've once again made contact with our leader, Mark Levin.
Hello, America. Mark Levin here. Our number, 877-381-3811, 877-381-3811. I'm going to go ahead and post in a very truncated, concise form my thoughts, which have been expressed more comprehensively here on the radio, but that's the nature of the internet. And so I just sent that to Mr. Producer. Again, we're going to have 2 fantastic shows this weekend, brand new shows. Saturday, 8 p.m. Eastern. You can set your DVR, folks. I know there's a lot of football. There's a lot of things going on. But I want you to watch these programs. I'm doing them for you, not for me. And same with Sunday, killer program. With brand new guests. Now, I'm going to tell you something. Pete Hegseth, the Republican who's been leading a campaign to sabotage and destroy Pete Hegseth and his reputation in order to prevent him from being the nominee as Secretary of Defense, is Joni Ernst. She's now trying to say that she has not and is not. Well, if that's what she's saying, she's a liar, because I have it on good authority on Capitol Hill and at Mar-a-Lago that she's been doing it. The media knows she's been doing it. Members of the Senate know she's been doing it. And her sidekick has been Lindsey Graham. And so the next time Lindsey's on Fox, hopefully the hosts will begin to ask him and grill him about it. This isn't funny. This isn't politics as usual. It really is amazing to watch members of Congress, probably the most immoral, unfaithful group of people, of any group of people, passing judgment on people. I noticed Eric Swalwell had an affair with a Fang Fang, a communist Chinese spy. There he sits on the Judiciary Committee, on the Homeland Security Committee, defended by his party. And I go down the list. But so much of what's been said about Hegseth are lies. The same media, the same reprobate reporters who lied about us, who lied about Trump, who lie about Israel, who lie about everything, are leading the charge on this with the Democrat Party and their favorite Republicans. No, Pete Hegseth didn't have alcohol in his breath when he worked at Fox. No, Pete Hegseth did not molest a woman. No, Pete Hegseth is not a serial womanizer. Some people go through difficult divorces, so forth and so on. Things are said. It's unfortunate. Things are what they are. And even some people step out on their marriage. I don't like hanging around such people and so forth and so on. It's not what I do. Some people like to drink to the point of drunkenness. Not what I do. I don't like hanging around people who do. But some people have done it. And they've done it in their distant past. And they don't do it anymore. And they haven't done it in years. The question is, in the case of Pete Hegseth, would he be a good or great Secretary of Defense? The answer is yes. That's why they want to stop him. You see, he's not from the good old boys and now good old girls network of senior military officials, the big brass. He's never been in those lofty positions as general and admiral and so forth. And he wants to take a baseball bat to DEI and wokeism that has been destroying our recruitment of young individuals into the military and destroying the readiness of the military, which is supposed to be a fighting machine, not a liberal cultural machine. Joni Ernst, as I understand it from what I've been reading, has been defending trans operations in the military and so forth and so on. So that, in part, is one of her priorities. It's not a Pete Hegseth priority. As for Lindsey Graham, right out of the box, the guy that rubber stamps virtually every Democrat president nominee for a lifetime appointment to the judiciary. President should get who he wants and who he needs. But not when it comes to Pete Hegseth. Believe all the leaks, believe all of it. But again, when it comes to Pete's qualifications, they're superb. Big piece in the Washington Post today on how the medals and honors that Pete earned, well, they're just routine. You know, there's two types of Bronze Stars. Just because they got two of them doesn't mean he's courageous. They hand out Bronze Stars like lollipops, according to the Washington Post. No, they don't. And these other awards, the Merit Awards, the Combat Awards, well, everybody gets those too. No, they don't. Well, they asked some experts. I'm sure they did. That's the nature of propaganda, Pravda, Al Jazeera, and the Washington Compost, and the rest of the American media. Experts, cherry-picked. So now, it's not just an attack on Pete Hegseth's life. Now it's an attack on his military service. The same media that cringed when you would question Tampon Tim's record, which was a rotten, lousy record. He served in the National Guard. I got it. But when push came to shove and it was time to step up, he couldn't run fast enough in the other direction. Don't you dare say that. You didn't serve in the military. No, I didn't. And I didn't undermine my unit either. But I know people who have family and friends. And they would stand with Hegseth. They'd be in a foxhole with Hegseth. Never with Tampon Tim. Never, ever. Now, we cannot allow 3, 4, or 5 Republican senators in a new majority that they had nothing to do with, that Donald Trump brought to them, that you brought to them. We cannot allow 3, 4, 5 Republican senators to prevent Pete Hegseth from getting a roll call vote on the floor of the Senate when it's all said and done. We cannot allow that. We cannot allow 3, 4, 5 Republican senators, maybe there's 8 of them, whatever there are, a small minority, to be able to blackmail and threaten and call the shots. Because this isn't purely an attack on Pete Hegseth. This is an attack on Donald Trump. This is an attack on you and me, the voters. After all this, months and months of elections, months and months of talk, turning out in record numbers, early voting, same-day voting. absentee voting, counting the votes, sending in the lawyers, making sure everything works. We cannot allow a handful of Republican senators to sabotage an appointment like this. And if they want to vote against it, on the record. So we know when you present yourselves for election next time, we can kick your ass out of office. That's right, and I will lead the way. As we always do here. We always do. Democrats never do this to themselves, do they? They don't have the 3, 4, 5, 6, maybe you'd say whatever it is, Republicans like we do. Oh, they're so independent. They're so thoughtful. And just ask them. They're so righteous, a.k.a. full of crap. And they're in the conga line of cable TV guests. They just keep running them through. Same thing over and over again. Then they tell you, let the system work. Let's have the, let's have the hearing. If they've done everything they can to smear, character assassinate, and destroy, now let's have the hearing. So it'll be a hearing about somebody's personal life, personal allegations, he says, she said. How many times have we been through this? It's the typical tactic of the Democrat Party and their media, with a few repubics thrown in. How many times do we have to go through this? Well, ask Joni Ernst. Ask Lindsey Graham, and when I find out who the others are, I'll tell you who they are, too. No, I don't do that. I have not done that. Yes, you did, Joni. Yes, you did. Yes, she did, Iowa. Yes, she did. Incredible. Then our buddy Kash Patel. Kash Patel has an unbelievable record, like Hegseth. Unbelievable. Unbelievable record. You got this schmo, John Bolton. The Tokyo Rose of our time. I wouldn't be surprised if he doesn't show up at CNN in a dress next time. Hey, Tokyo Rose. Another guy who's on a personal vendetta campaign. Compares Kash Patel. And I'm going to tell you about his record on Sunday. Kash Patel compares him to Stalin's hitman. Stalin's hitman. And they love him on NBC and the rest. Oh, you know what John Bolton said? No, they hate John Bolton's guts. They've always hated John Bolton's guts. They hope he gets hit by a bus. But meanwhile, he's a useful idiot. So there he is. And he's not the only useful idiot. We have a lot of useful idiots on the Republican side. And there they are. They actually go on CNN and MSNBC. Nobody's watching. So they're like double useful idiots. But then they run with their comments like we're persuaded. Oh, John Bolton said that? Nobody can stand John Bolton. So what? Oh, John Bolton's. Well, it must be true then. So the left hates his guts. The right can't stand him. But the media love him, boy. It pushes a mantra. I used to know this guy. Used to be friends with this guy. Right, John? You used to ask me to help you become national security advisor. You remember those conversations, don't you, John? I remember them very well. But John was wronged. So now, anybody or anything connected to Donald Trump is to be attacked. Kash Patel. They're dehumanizing Pete Hegseth. That's the goal. They're dehumanizing Kash Patel. That's the goal. The way they've sought to dehumanize Donald Trump. But Donald Trump won in a landslide. So the way you get to Donald Trump now in their sick minds is through 1,000 cuts. Oh, you want that guy? No, can't have that guy. And notice, these aren't the liberals or the so-called moderates that the president's nominated. Yes, he's nominated some liberals and moderates. Look at the Labor Department. She's a big lib. She's a big lib. She's for amnesty. She's bought and paid for by the teachers' unions. Oh, yeah, and she's going to run the Labor Department. I don't like her in the least. But again, I've said Donald Trump should get the cabinet that he wants. He won. I didn't. And at some point, if there's a problem, he'll get rid of her. Because that's what he does. He's a businessman. That's what you do. But she's not under tool. There's bipartisan support for her. Bipartisan support over there at the State Department, Secretary of State. But Kash Patel. So when it literally comes to constitutional conservatives, they're the ones who are under attack. Joni Ernst isn't attacking the Labor Department appointed. No. It's okay. Collins loves her. Murkowski loves her because they're all the same ilk. We're not going to get any changes. We're not going to get any reforms. We're not going to have any progress if they succeed in stopping the Pete Hegseths, the Kash Patels, and people like them, and only back the rhino, phony Republicans. We're not going to get any reforms or any progress. The president will call the shots. He will be in charge. He will be a great leader, but you have to have individuals under you, whether it's politics, the military, or business, who are going to execute. Who are going to execute. Because let's face it, the vast majority of the bureaucracy is going to do everything they can to sabotage Trump and his agenda. That's it, because it's mostly owned and paid for by the Democrat Party. Just telling you the truth. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
You know, they say free, but what they really mean is see the fine print. There's no shortage of ads from the big wireless carriers offering the latest iPhone for free. But look deeper. You'll realize to qualify, you need to trade in your phone valued at $1,000. You need to be on the $100 a month unlimited plan and pay the $35 activation fee. That's a lot of money for a free phone, don't you think? Well, don't fall for it. Pure Talk, my cell phone company, has a better option. Get a brand new iPhone 14, which has all the bells and whistles you need, plus get unlimited talk, text, 15 gigs of data, and mobile hotspot, all for $50 a month. How about that? Half the price of the big guys, and you get a new iPhone powered by America's most dependable 5G network. Do this. Go to puretalk.com/Levin today. Switching is easy. Plus, when you go to puretalk.com/LEVIN, you'll get an additional 50% off your first month. Pure Talk, America's wireless company. You know what's funny about this? Of course, this used to be viewed as controversial. Now it's viewed as pretty lame, don't you think, Mr. Producer? But that said, I mean, we can do a song walking around with a man's you-know-what or a woman's you-know-what, but I'm not a singer. But I'll tell you, as a young guy, I learned a long time ago, if you're going to give like a speech and you're nervous, I'm really never nervous anymore about these things. I'm just saying, when you were, you look out the audience and you just think of the people in underwear. You ever heard anything like that, Mr. Producer? You have, yeah. Others have too. And that just brings everything down to earth. As long as you don't laugh at the people you're looking at, you look at and imagine them just wearing underwear. But that's one way to get the nerves out of your system. Obviously, I don't have to do that anymore. As a matter of fact, I don't even want to think about it when I'm up there speaking, and I don't. Exactly. In fact, I view them wearing, robes, raincoats, wearing masks, hoodies, covering as much of them as possible. No, I'm just kidding. I'll be right back. You know, they say free, but what they really mean is see the fine print. There's no shortage of ads from the big wireless carriers offering the latest iPhone for free. But look deeper. You'll realize to qualify, you need to trade in your phone valued at $1,000. You need to be on the $100 a month unlimited plan and pay the $35 activation fee. That's a lot of money for a free phone, don't you think? Well, don't fall for it. Pure Talk, my cell phone company, has a better option. Get a brand new iPhone 14, which has all the bells and whistles you need, plus get unlimited talk, text, 15 gigs of data, and mobile hotspot, all for $50 a month. How about that? Half the price of the big guys, and you get a new iPhone powered by America's most dependable 5G network. Do this. Go to puretalk.com/Levin today. Switching is easy. Plus, when you go to puretalk.com/Levin, you'll get an additional 50% off your first month. Pure Talk, America's wireless company.
The Mark Levin Show, the pool feed for the conservative media. Dive in now. 877-381-3811.
I want to talk to Jim in Little Rock, Arkansas, XM Satellite. Jim, how are you, sir?
On XM Satellite, I'm on KARN,
better yet.
102.9.
All right.
Okay.
Talk to us.
Okay, I wanted to tell you that a few years ago, I was arrested and convicted for the same charge that Hunter Biden has been charged with.
Which one?
The gun charge.
Okay, on the form. Okay.
The one about lying on the ATF form when you fill out the form to buy the weapon.
And what? And you told them you hadn't been convicted or you weren't on drugs, right?
Well, me and my wife had split up. We had separated, and she filed a form. It's something like I'm not supposed to come around her. I don't know exactly what you call it.
Right.
But I lied on the form that I filled out, and the ATF personnel came around about a week later, busted into my motel room, took me to the county jail in Little Rock, and I didn't have another free day for a year and a half.
So you were in jail for a year and a half for lying on the form, penalty of perjury, about an order that had been issued to stay away from your wife. Is that about right?
Right. That is correct.
And so all these people who say, nobody's charged with this, nobody does time for this, you're here to tell us that's a lie. You did.
That is a lie. There are people above the law, and the rest of us are below the law.
So he pardons his son and, in effect, pardons himself. Now he's thinking of preemptively pardoning a whole bunch of people. What do you think of that? Crazy.
Well, you can just imagine what I think of that. I have no respect for any of our law enforcement departments, whether it be the FBI or the ATF. But if we get some good leadership in there in the near future, I think things can be turned around.
All right, my friend. It's a long time to be in jail for what you did, but thank you for your call. You see, ladies and gentlemen, I'll bet you if I put the call out right now, this phone board would be filled with people who've been charged and served time for lying on that form under penalty of perjury. And so the media, the Biden regime, and the rest of them, they want you to believe this is not a big deal. What's going on? Of course it's a big deal. I go to these NRA events all the time. I'm not always buying guns. I like to walk around, say hi to people, see what's going on, get the soft pretzels, put a little mustard on it with a Diet Coke. There always has to be some kind of food there. But seriously, and you're filling out that form, and you better fill that form out accurately, or you will be subjected to prison time, and you'll have a criminal record. I hear these lawyers say, no, you're not. Yes, you do. And yes, you are. It's outrageous. Well, let's continue a little bit here. Randy, Springfield, Missouri, the show me state, but don't show us, Randy. On the Mark Levin app, how are you, sir? Yellow. Hello, Randy, in the show me state. How are you, sir? I went all the way up to the president of the company, so we got to get this phone system fixed. You know, Mr. Producer? And we thought it was, but it ain't. And so there you go. Let's try another caller. I just want to make sure this system is either working or not. Pick one caller. Anybody. KRLA, Los Angeles. Bruce, are you there?
I am. Nice to talk to you, Mark. I
thank you.
Really enjoyed meeting you at the Reagan Library on your book signing last year for Democratic Party Hates America. There were some 1,500 people there. The purpose of the call
we always have a packed house. It's a lot of fun, isn't it?
It sure is, and it sure was. I was a whistleblower in federal court for almost 11 years. The case did go to the Supreme Court in a parallel case with New York on the issue of qui tam action, whether a pro per can bring that action, which the Supreme Court ultimately ruled that you could not.
Let's slow down a second. I want people to know. Qui tam action goes back to the Civil War when they didn't have enough investigators and prosecutors for all the so-called contractors that were ripping off the Union. And so they passed this qui tam act, which in effect deputized citizens who have to reach a, certain level of demonstration of proof and so forth to report fraud to the government. And then the government decides if it's going to take up the case or not. And for that, you get a reward. You get a percentage of whatever they recover. Anyway, go ahead.
Yes, absolutely. And that goes back 800 years to the Magna Carta, which Lincoln had signed during the Civil War, precisely. What I'm advocating is that the Justice Department bring a False Claims Act action against all of the public officials across the country, both from governors to county supervisors and mayors, that are purportedly saying that there's a so-called sanctuary state or sanctuary city. There is no such thing as a sanctuary anything. They have raised their hand and violated their oath, their solemn oath that they'll uphold the Constitution and the laws to which they're governing, have sworn to govern.
Let me just slow down, because your point is so very important and put in such an intelligently plain way. Just to recap, you're saying, hey, look, sanctuary city basically is saying, I'm defying the 10th Amendment, I'm defying the Constitution and the Supremacy Clause. We're going to do whatever the hell they want. In other words, it's like the Confederacy.
Exactly. Absolutely.
Great point.
Have that authority. They don't have that authority, and they cannot, the Supremacy Clause overrules whatever purport they're trying to advocate, which is ridiculous. And it is a direct fraud on the public fiscal, which then triggers the False Claims Act, and they are not immune. So
I like this argument, the False Claims Act. In other words, they don't have authority to spend federal monies to facilitate illegality, violation of our immigration laws. And by the way, the feds don't have authority to do that either. Go ahead. You're making great points.
That's absolutely correct. The feds could be liable. Federal officials could be liable also. And this is so widespread now, where the states in California here and in Los Angeles are thinking that they have the authority on the local level and the police chief that's now sworn in is saying, I will not cooperate with the federal government. They do not have that authority, and they're directly stating that we are not going to uphold the law. They're aiding and abetting and giving safe harbor to criminal conduct.
Very good. You must have been a good whistleblower, but you lost at the Supreme Court. That doesn't mean you're not a good whistleblower. It means they decided something in a way that you disagree with.
It was a technical issue. It was a technical issue as to if somebody that is not a lawyer cannot represent the United States of America. That's what it came down to. If you don't have a bar license, you can't represent anybody else. But I do hope that you can advocate this and possibly contact President Trump and the
No. Hold on. I don't contact President Trump every time somebody has a good idea, because I don't think he'd take my call. But you just discussed it with millions and millions of people, so that's a good start.
Absolutely, and I appreciate you listening to me and taking the call the last time.
That was a great call. All right, brother, I got to go. Hard break. I got to do this. Folks, I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
You know, they say free, but what they really mean is see the fine print. There's no shortage of ads from the big wireless carriers offering the latest iPhone for free. But look deeper. You'll realize to qualify, you need to trade in your phone valued at $1,000. You need to be on the $100 a month unlimited plan and pay the $35 activation fee. That's a lot of money for a free phone, don't you think? Well, don't fall for it. Pure Talk, my cell phone company, has a better option. Get a brand new iPhone 14, which has all the bells and whistles you need, plus get unlimited talk, text, 15 gigs of data, and mobile hotspot, all for $50 a month. How about that? Half the price of the big guys, and you get a new iPhone powered by America's most dependable 5G network. Do this. Go to puretalk.com/Levin today. Switching is easy. Plus, when you go to puretalk.com/LEVIN, you'll get an additional 50% off your first month. Pure Talk, America's wireless company. This guy, Ronald Rowe, is the acting head of the Secret Service. This guy needs to go. He's a real head case, in my humble opinion. He really is. I watched this clip, and this guy loses it. He's being questioned by a very patriotic congressman. Question was perfectly legitimate, but he's flipping out. So we can't have any flip outs. Head of the Secret Service, you know, I don't know if my brother Dan Bongino wants it or not, but if he does, I think he'd be fantastic over there. But this guy has to go. Let's take a little listen, shall we, Mr. Producer? Cut 19, go.
You recognize this photo?
Yes, sir, I do.
Okay. Is that the remembrance of September 11th?
It was.
Was it in New York?
It was at Ground Zero.
Okay. Who's usually at an event like this closest to the President of the United States? Security-wise.
The SAC of the detail.
Special agent in charge of the detail. Were you the special agent in charge of the detail that day?
Actually, let me address this. Could you please, staff, leave that? Oh, no, leave that one up with the circle around me. Thank you. Well, actually, Congressman, what you're not seeing is the SAC of the detail out of the picture's view. And that is the day where we remember the more than 3,000 people that have died on 9/11. I actually responded to Ground Zero. I was there going through the ashes of the World Trade Center. Mm-hmm. I was there at Fresh Kills.
I'm not asking you that. I'm asking you,
Congressman.
Were you the special agent in charge?
To show respect for a Secret Service member that died on 9/11.
Oh, that you were trying to be.
Do not invoke 9/11 for political purposes.
Oh, I'm not. I'm invoking this.
You are, sir.
Gentlemen,
and you are out of line.
I would like to ask him a question.
Please. You are out of line, Congressman.
Don't try to bully me. I am an elected member of Congress, and I'm asking you a serious question, and you are playing politics.
I am a public servant who has served this nation, and
you won't answer.
Let's stop. He's asking you, you're in the photo, if you were the SAC. If you were in command, you were the leader. And so far, he hasn't answered it, has he, Mr. Producer? He's standing there. I didn't even know this was the case. He's in the photo. Go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, committee will come to order.
Committee will come to order.
I'm asking you serious questions for the American people, and they're very simple. They're not trick questions. Were you the special agent in charge that day?
No, I wasn't. I was there representing the United States Secret Service, sir.
Mr. Fallon, your time's expired.
It did not affect protective operations.
You know why you were there? Because you wanted to be visible, because you are auditioning for this job.
I was there to pay respect for a fallen member of this agency.
You endangered President Biden's life, Vice President Harris's life, because you put those agents out of position.
Mr.
Did you have a radio with you?
Mr. Fallon, your time has expired.
I did, sir, and you are out of line.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
Please.
All right.
We are back in order now.
That's enough.
Back in order.
That's enough. Pat Fallon's a good man. Met him because he was running for the first time for office. A really good guy. I think the question is perfectly legitimate. You were there. What are you doing there? If you're not the special agent in charge, and what are you doing there? You're distracting. You're drawing attention. And we never got an answer to that. I think he said he was not, which raises the question, well, then, what were you doing there? But there are bigger questions here, ladies and gentlemen. I think they need a reformer to run that department now. They need somebody on the outside, just like with the FBI and so forth. It's time to bring in some some really smart people who have really excellent experiences and have the energy to get these agencies doing the jobs that they're supposed to do. We don't believe in no government. We believe in a constitutional system where the government actually functions properly. I'll be right back.
He's here. Now, broadcasting from the underground command post, deep in the bowels of a hidden bunker, somewhere under the brick and steel of a nondescript building, we've once again made contact with our leader, Mark Levin.
Hello, America. Mark Levin here. Our number, 877-381-3811. Hello, 877-381-3811. You know, let me finish this hearing on the Secret Service, and then we'll move on, because Representative Mark Green was at the hearing, and he had some very blunt things to say as well to the acting Secret Service director. Cut 20, go.
It speaks of apathy or complacency that is really unacceptable in an organization like the Secret Service. One of my questions to you is, the level of the failure seems unfathomable. The internal policies that weren't adhered to, the failure to mitigate very obvious risks, it speaks to a culture that, lack of attention to details, lack of sense of urgency, complacency. I mean, these are leadership, these are command climate issues. What is the command climate of the Secret Service? That's the thing that concerns me the most. When I reported to the 160th Special Operations Aviation Regiment commander, be their doctor. Right? At that point in my life, I was 38 years old. I had graduated from West Point Ranger School, commanded in the 82nd Airborne Division, an infantry company. I had a master's in systems information. I had a medical degree, top of my med school class, and I wondered if I was good enough to be on that team. That's what I'm talking about. Elite culture where everybody comes to work every friggin' day saying, I will do everything I can to make sure I don't fail. And I'll tell you, going to war, I didn't give a shit if I died. What I didn't want to do was fail. But your guys showed up that day and didn't give a shit. There was apathy and complacency, period. And that's your mission now. I appreciate all the systems and the technology that everybody else has asked about. But this is a leadership issue. This is a command climate issue, a culture issue.
100%. We have this legal case in Manhattan where this Alvin Bragg, everything he touched turns to S-H-O-T, shot, Mr. Producer, shot. And these judges are just unbelievable. So to keep it short and understandable, this jury was hung on the issue of whether to convict Penny, basically misdemeanor murder. And the judge sends them back, and they're still hung. So listen to this. So he dismisses the charge, Mr. Producer. And then he says, however, jury, we'll come back Monday. Think about it over the weekend, basically, have a good time, and then come back Monday. And then you can decide whether he's guilty of the lesser offense, negligent murder. And people who are more experienced at this stuff than I am, they're scratching their heads. They're saying, what the hell is that? In other words, you don't get... It's not like a buffet or smorgasbord. All right, you don't go this one over here with the breaded chicken fingers. Okay, come over here with the Swedish meatballs. Doesn't work that way. Or at least I didn't think it did. Apparently it does. Even though it shouldn't. So now they're going to make a determination on whether it was negligent homicide or something to that effect. And Bragg's doing this because he's a ratfink. And of course, if others have said, and they're correct, nobody's going to want to be a good Samaritan under this. Do you know what else happened today? Mr. Penny, the hero Marine who saved those people on that subway, this guy who was choked out, accidentally choked out, but nonetheless choked out, wasn't a victim. He was a perpetrator. Okay? He wasn't a victim. Well, he had mental issues. I don't care what he had. The vast majority of the people on that subway who were near or around him were scared to death. They were scared to death. And so now, if you're a good Samaritan and you step in, depending on what jurisdiction you're in, depending on who the DA is, like a Soros DA, you're putting your own life on the line. You might be imprisoned. You might be imprisoned for being a good Samaritan. The fact that this nut job was on the subway threatening people, whether he's an official nut job or not, is of no consequence to me. He's roaming the countryside. There he is in the subway threatening people. Seems to me that he, who has passed, is responsible for the consequences and those that flow from his original actions. Not Penny, who's stepping in to try and protect people. But what do I know? Now, I don't know. A lot of parts of our country, Mr. Penny would not have been charged. He would have been celebrated. The perpetrator wouldn't be the victim. Perpetrator would be the perpetrator. But this guy, Alvin Bragg, apparently with the electorate in Manhattan, this goes a long way because he says, essentially, and if the jury is hung again on this issue of negligent homicide, I may charge him again. Now, juxtapose that with what's going on in Washington, with the media crying crocodile tears for anybody who might be investigated by the Trump administration. You know how much money they have to spend on lawyers and everything? Do they care about Mr. Penny? He's not a politician. He's not a grifter. He's not a manipulator. He saw what was going on that subway, and rather than sit down and stay out of it, he stepped up. Mr. Penny has no background, of any kind of criminality, of brutality. None. The victim has a long record. But he's mentally ill. So where was the family? They're everywhere now. Where were they then? And when somebody like that is loosed onto society, in a subway car where you can't get the hell out, where you're stuck, and the person's threatening people, seriously threatening, what do you know? Hey, is he mentally ill? I don't think you're thinking that about then. Are you, Mr. Producer? Is he not taking his medicine? Well, if he's mentally ill, he's free to do and say whatever he wants. No. And that's what they're doing. They're trying to create a passive society where men don't stand up for other people, where good Samaritans don't exist. Wait, you're left. You're left for the vicissitudes of the criminal element, the mentally insane, the Democrat Party and the government. We're not allowed to defend yourself or defend other people. Well, the hell with that. We'll see what happens here. But this jurisdiction with this DA is a real hellhole. People say to me, I'm honest. I started in New York. I started in WABC when it was owned by ABC, which was a very good company, which promoted this show, which actually ran a great station. And as much as I'd like to come to New York, I'm also on Fox. Obviously, they're headquartered in New York. The last time I came to New York, my wife had a very serious back operation with a tremendous surgeon. I don't know if I'm allowed to give out his name, if that'll help him or hurt him, but a tremendous surgeon, did a tremendous job. And then we came home. I mean, it's terrible. And, of course, America's mayor, who made New York safe again, they're bankrupting him. They're trying to throw him in prison. They've taken his law license away. They've just destroyed this guy, Giuliani. Absolutely destroyed him. It's horrible. Then you get one schmo after another in there now. You got this guy, DeCamio Adams. I don't know where this guy stands from day to day. I'll be perfectly honest with you. I have nothing against him, personally. I think the charges against him are an absolute outrageous joke. But one day he's for the illegal immigrants, one day he's not for the illegal. I can't follow this guy, I'll be perfectly honest with you, so I don't. But I know the guy that wants to replace him, he's another like Castroite. Absolute kook. Absolute kook, next in line. The great city of New York had so many great mayors up till now. So a lot of people would like to come to New York. The problem is you got almost 60,000 criminals who've been brought in over the past few years. The war on the NYPD, I love the NYPD, the greatest police force in the world. They're prevented from doing their damn jobs. You got crackpot judges, crackpot prosecutors. These thugs are in the front door, out the back door. Nobody seems to give a damn. Anyway, I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
So you would think Barack Obama would hide out for a while, having humiliated himself and his dear friend, Kamala Harris. But no. Honestly, what else is he going to do? He's making in millions and millions, and nobody knows what he does. So he's at the Democracy Forum in Chicago, where we all know democracy reigns. City of Chicago, what is it, 25 dead every weekend? Illegal aliens roaming the streets, the Venezuelan gangs trying to take out the older gangs. Democracy in Chicago. Talk about an ass clown. What about the mayor there? Complete fraud, phony, and freak. Anyway, there's Obama. He's in Chicago. He must have said something very profound. Cut one, go.
Can the idea of pluralism work in the current moment?
What? Hold on. The idea, let's think this through, because he's so cerebral, you know. Can the idea of pluralism work in the current moment? Well, what is America? We've got like 430,000 different ethnicities in this country. Pluralism. Is that what he means by pluralism, or does he mean something else? Well, we don't know. Go ahead.
And for that matter, is the concept even worth saving?
Okay, stop a second. The concept worth saving. What does that mean? The concept of pluralism worth saving. Well, pluralism is more than a concept, it's a reality. It's even on our coin, e pluribus unum. Maybe he missed that. I don't know. This is the most diverse society on the face of the earth. Did you know that? America is the most diverse society on the face of the earth. And he's preaching about pluralism. Is it worth saving? The issue, Barack, may I call you Barack, is not whether pluralism is worth saving. What is the best societal environment and governmental environment in which people can secure individual liberty, whether it's through pluralism or not? That's the question. That's the question, Barack. Go ahead.
The answer is yes. I am convinced that if we want democracy as we understand it to survive, then we're all going to have to work towards a renewed commitment to pluralist principles.
You know, one of the things that always annoys me when a guy starts talking like this and pretends he's some kind of scholar when he's basically a radical left-wing political hack, but regardless, is they don't define their terms. Pluralism can mean many things. What does he mean by it? I don't know. He doesn't say. It's like using the word democracy. The word democracy is used by every genocidal monster on the face of the earth. The Democratic Republic of this, the Democratic of that. And of course they're not. Putin. For you Putinoids. The Islamo-Nazis in the robes in Tehran and so forth. They all talk about democracy. We're going to have a vote. Oh, democracy. Pluralism. Will it survive? Sure it will. What do you mean? If you ask people in the audience what they mean, you get 5,000 different responses. So, but let's go on just for the fun of it. Go ahead.
Because the alternative is what we've seen here in the United States and in many democracies around the globe.
What is he talking about exactly? I'm just curious. He's talking about open borders, open immigration. I mean, I can certainly assume that because he believes in it. That's not pluralism, that's suicide. You still need a rule of law. You still need basic processes, administrative processes. You still need to know who's coming, what their purpose is. It'd be better if he talked about pluralism in the context of assimilation, but he'll never do that. Assimilation into the American culture, assimilation and allegiance to American society. You can have all the pluralism you want, but you have to have some standards. I mean, pluralism without standards, pluralism without assimilation is anarchy. It's a mob. I guess I'm getting ahead of myself. Go ahead.
Not just more gridlock, not just public cynicism, but an increasing willingness on the part of politicians and their followers to violate democratic norms.
I have no idea. These are probably veiled or not so veiled shots at Trump and MAGA and conservatives and so forth and so on. But again, these are shibboleths. They are broadsides. They're bumper stickers. They're fortune cookies. You know, they're not, he's not saying anything. Go ahead.
To do anything they can to get their way. To use the power of
the state. Barack, you know what? We just had an election. You lost. You presented yourself. You were rejected. Your candidate, really, who you've been grooming as a candidate for a long time, was a complete disaster. Maybe you should look in the mirror. Maybe you should reconsider what you've been doing. Maybe you should think about your ideology. Maybe you should think about how divisive you were as president of the United States. In fact, I can remember prior to his presidency, there was racism for sure. There always has been and always will be. But the effort to create almost a race or racialist psychology throughout the country, really, the heyday was under Obama. So diversity, pluralism requires assimilation, or you get mob rule and anarchy. And by the way, you have places where there's not assimilation at all, not diversity or plurality at all, that are hellholes. Look at Haiti. A complete disaster. I'll be right back.
Nobody says it better than Mark Levin.
I'll go with what Mark Levin said, because nobody could say it better.
Call in now at 877-381-3811.
So there's Obama. Diversity, pluralism. Why can't we get along? Democracy. And then he drops the other shoe. At the Democracy Forum in Chicago, Illinois, 60609. Cut 2, go.
There are going to be times, potentially, when one side tries to stack the deck and lock in a permanent grip on power, either by actively suppressing votes or politicizing the armed forces or using the judiciary, the criminal justice system to go after opponents.
Wait a minute, he's trying to talk about us. Go ahead.
Those circumstances, pluralism does not call for us to just stand back and say, well, I'm not sure. That's okay. In those circumstances, a line has been crossed, and we have to stand firm.
How much is he getting paid for this speech? Whatever it is, it's too much. Go ahead. Cut 3.
Talk of bridging our differences when the country and the world seemed so bitterly divided felt like an academic exercise. It felt far-fetched, even naive, especially since, as far as they were concerned, the election proved that democracy is pretty far down on people's priority list.
You know what I realized there, American? I want to apologize to you. God, I just wasted like 10 minutes of our time. Didn't I, Mr. Producer? I apologize for that. I really do. Got a list of all kinds of nut jobs. I'm not going to foist them on you on this beautiful Friday. By the way, it's cold out there. Ooh, baby. I should be in Florida. That's where I belong right now. Then there's Jamie Raskin. Jamie the Red Raskin, Sovietologist. Doesn't study it. He is it. He's on CNN's The Situation Room with Wolf Blitzer, who always has one eye closed and one open because the guy's sleeping. You wouldn't know the difference. We're in the fight of our lives, Wolf. Mr. Producer, which cut is that? Go for it. Well, let me read it to you. I messed up there. Let me read it to you. We're in the fight of our lives against the incoming administration. Get it? You know, pluralism. We're in the fight of our lives, Wolf. He's crying wolf again. There's an incoming administration which has vowed to turn the Department of Justice into an instrument of political revenge and retaliation and persecution of individual American citizens. Now, this is how the Marxist, fascist, Islamists work. That's exactly what they did, and now they accuse their opponents of it. And you know, he had a coup of sorts. He toppled Jerry Nadler as chairman of the Judiciary Committee. So now we have this Soviet Union-type Stalinist, in my humble opinion, running the Judiciary Committee. The guy who was involved in 2 impeachments, the January 6th committee, in trying to remove Trump from the ballots under the 14th Amendment, who's challenged the elections of George W. Bush on the floor of the House, and who's challenged the election of Donald Trump. And they bring him on these shows. So there he is on CNN, Wolf Blitzer. We've got an incoming administration which doesn't care about any constitutional boundaries. The party that hates the Constitution and the people who wrote it. They're threatening to impound funds. They're impounding funds from Israel right now that have been appropriated for particular purposes by Congress and use them for other purposes. Now, there's always legal challenges when that happens, and Trump has won them. That was, of course, something Trump did in his first administration when he redirected money from other lawfully appropriate funds to building the wall in Mexico, which he had promised the people of Mexico would do. Number one, he went through the court system and they approved it. Number two, he put tariffs on in Mexico. He's explained this 1,000 times. That money's fungible, so that would have gone, at least conceivably, to the wall. That's how he's explained it over and over again. But, of course, the promise was broken. The people of Mexico, the government of Mexico didn't pay for it, and so they tried to redirect the money. Why don't you shut up, you little puke? You gutless wonder. You go on with Wolf Blitzer. That's like going on with a mannequin. He's so courageous. He's on with CNN and MSNBC or Meet the Depressed or Deface the Nation or whatever it is. So courageous. Just come on with me. I'm just a talk show host. What do I know? Would you reach out to him again, say, Mr. Blue, you're now he won't be the chairman, they'll be in the minority, but you're going to be the leading Democrat on the House Judiciary Committee. Can we talk to you about your agenda, please? Would you try that? I mean, you would think that I'm some kind of communist that he won't speak to me. Something of that sort. You know, we call him, I can't say it in open... I haven't commented on this because I like to wait for all the facts to come in. But the cold-blooded assassination of this United Healthcare CEO, Brian Thompson, is appalling. And we will find out if it involves the dehumanization of these corporate CEOs by the usual sources. We will see. People refer to, very similar to a book condemning insurance companies. That's possible too. There's a lot of nut jobs out there. A lot of them. But just to shoot him in the back, I think he hit him in the leg, and then they'll stand over him and shoot him 2 more times. They're going to find the guy. The NYPD, the FBI, they'll find the guy. We'll see what happens. I hope they don't charge him in Manhattan, because then Alvin Bragg will be the prosecutor, you understand. But hopefully they will find him, and they will find him soon. I think they're on his trail. They do believe he's left New York City, by the way. But if you're a CEO of one of these companies, an oil company, or a healthcare company, or a pharmaceutical company, you got to start wondering about these things. And by the way, some of the propaganda by my brothers and sisters, again, it sounds like Bernie Sanders. They're still quoting Bernie Sanders on cable TV. Did you see that today? Like Bernie Sanders said. Here's what Bernie Sanders said. You're quoting Bernie Sanders for? Can't you quote somebody else? Anybody else, except Raskin. Quoting Bernie. Bernie Sanders said, that's good. We're going to have an independent audit of the Department of Defense, because Bernie hates our military. So why do we keep quoting him? He didn't come up with the idea. That's a long-held idea. I think Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy want to breathe life back into that process. I agree with them. But defense? What about all the climate change, quote-unquote, money that was spent under the Inflation Reduction Act? What about all the redistribution of wealth that takes place in this country that has nothing to do with constitutional government? It even has nothing to do with fairness. They just reward their buddies. What about all the contracts they go up and enrich all these billionaires who in turn donate to the Democrat Party? Hey, Bernie, you want to look into that, huh? No, I don't think so. But the way this guy was executed was so sick. By the way, in California, I think they're still counting ballots for the 1918 election, Mr. Producer. We have to do something about this. I don't know what. The people who are involved in election law activities, we can't have a state like California. A month later, they're finding votes, they're counting votes, and it's miraculous. Every single time the Democrats win. They snuck in 2 more Democrats. The majority in the House is so de minimis. You have a lady who apparently was very nice, very wonderful congresswoman from Orange County, which used to be fairly Republican, if not heavily Republican. She loses. She lost 3 days ago. Excuse me, the election's been over a month. Doesn't matter. Count every ballot. Oh, count all the ballots. She loses. Another guy loses by the skin of his teeth. And then a third guy lost by the skin of his teeth. We're still counting. We haven't won yet. We got to keep counting. I mean, if the Republican Party in California, if you're good at anything, can't you at least do something about that? I'm just saying. Because those 2 elections were unbelievable. All right. What can I say? I shall return.
Mark Levin.
Tell me, folks, will you miss me if I stop doing this? New York, will you miss me? Are millions of fans in and around New York, the metropolitan area, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Connecticut? We started in New York on Sundays. We love the people in New York. We love the NYPD, the FDNY. I'm a Philadelphia boy, born in Philadelphia, but in many ways I have connections to New York City. When I do come to New York, and have come to New York, it's a great honor when cops come up to me. And I love the restaurants there. All the boroughs. All the boroughs. Great Italian food. Oh, my God, the Italian food's unbelievable. I say this as somebody who's from Philly. But you'll always be able to hear me one way or another, even if I have a soapbox on the corner and stand on it. I speak loud enough, I think, for all 5 boroughs, don't I, Mr. Producer? Oh, yes. It's always the podcast anywhere around the world. You can hear us on the podcast anywhere around the world. You can hear us on satellite radio anywhere around the world. You can hear us online. Never fear. Never fear. We go to America every Friday in honor of you. Here we go. Set your DVR. Don't forget, we have a very busy weekend, obviously. You got football, you've got family stuff, dinners. If you can't watch me live, set your DVR just in case. That's Life, Liberty, and Levin. 8 p.m. Eastern Time Saturday, 8 p.m. Eastern Time Sunday. We're going to have a blast. Please don't miss us. We salute our armed forces, police officers, firefighters, emergency personnel, and our truckers. And the men and women in Ukraine and in Israel, we have your backs. Good night, Spritey. Good night, Griffey. Good night, Pepsi. Good night, Smokey. Good night, Zelda. Good night, Gigi. Good night, Indy and Patton and Rory. Good night, little Barney and Marty. And good night, Dad. Good night, Mom. Good night, Leo and Joe. Good night, Bernard. Good night, Teddy. Good night, Lou, and all the great patriots who've come before us, on whose shoulders we stand, and you know many of them in your own lives and your own family. Don't miss us this weekend. 2 big shows. Tomorrow night, 8 p.m. Eastern. Sunday night, 8 p.m. Eastern. Set your DVR. Have a fantastic weekend, and God bless you.